YouTubers? This is Kevin from Survivor. Super fun time show. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone who's celebrating out there. We did have an awesome episode of Survivor 49. The pre-merge, it seems like a lot of times in the new era, is really not all that fun. Or sometimes the pre-merge is the fun part and the post-merge is the sucky, crappy part. And thankfully for Survivor 49, bless up, that the post-merge is the really, really fun part. And we got another awesome one in episode 10 of Survivor 49. We had people bamboozling each other during Tribal Council itself over and over again, just having fun with it, which was really nice. And obviously I'm a big encourager of that. Although we did have some serious lows in this episode provided by Christina and some of her personal life stuff and some of the crappiest application requesting of all time by Jeffrey Probst. Once again. But before we get into all of that stuff, all of that beautiful, delicious, meaty stuff, remember to hit the subscribe button to the Survivor Super Fun Time Show so we can continue to talk about Survivor and hear the commentary of this channel. But getting into the episode, obviously they're all, they're reeling from last Tribal Council. This is when Alex was voted out of the game. They decided that somebody can't play the middle like this any longer. Victory for the old Uli, Rizo, Savannah, the Sophies, the Sophie squared. The big question though, Joanne and Sage, they're the flippers. They had flipped over to Rizo and Savannah's side for this last vote to make sure that Alex was out of the game. But who are they really riding with for the rest of the way? And in many ways, that's very much the theme of the episode itself. But the episode really kind of starts off with Sage finally telling Joanne about Christina's idol, because Sage found out from Steven and she said she wouldn't tell anyone about it, but she did tell her number one, Joanne, eventually this episode. If Sage didn't tell Joanne, I would have been stunned. Now, Joanne knows about Christina's idol, Sage knows about it. Now, the question is, how can we maneuver these pieces in order to get the best possible result for Sage and Joanne? And Sage has ideas, which is essentially, we're going to vote out Savannah, which is always her number one idea. I still don't understand that. There's something in Sage that says, I need to get rid of Savannah. There's a lot of other threats in the game, but Sage is unwilling to let this grudge go, which is fascinating to me. But from there, it's like, how do we get rid of her while also getting rid of Christina's idol and Rizo's idol as well? Interesting idea, Cotton. How's it all going to come together? The segment where Joanne and Sage to start the episode are really trying to scheme this all together. Sage is like, oh, we've been talking too long. Tell everyone I've been farting. That's why we need time alone. Don't come talk to me. I have bad gas. That is the grossest shit. Sage is now at a point as a player where, she has played a good game. I'm not going to argue that. She's played a better game than I ever thought she would. She's playing a good game, but I think for the most part, Sage's legacy in Survivor is making goofy faces and talking about bodily functions and fluids, which is pretty gross. And I think it's an interesting legacy that she has set up for herself. Maybe it'll end differently, but this is just one of those segments where I'm like, oh, dude, Sage. I can't get into Sage like I could with people who are like her, like Nora and Carolyn. I just can't do it. It's just a different vibe. We go to the reward challenge for this one where, Jeff lines him up and is talking about the challenge. And Christina, visibly, he notices that she is not feeling it this day, which is true. She's feeling sad. She wants her mom. And she has a crash out that I think they were trying to set up to be kind of similar to Liz from Survivor 46's Applebee crash out, but obviously this is not comparable. It's not comparable for a couple of reasons, but one of the biggest ones is nobody caused it or anything. I mean, Christina just is having a bad time. She's having a tough moment, which I feel bad for her about. And she just said, I just want my mom. And that's it. I want my mom. Her mom died 3 years prior. I want my mom. And I was sitting there watching the episode with my mother because it's Thanksgiving. And one, it made me so thankful for the mom that I have. I love her very much. And two, how bad I felt for Christina in that moment. I mean, you're low. You have no one around you that you can really trust because obviously you have friends, but they're not really even your friends. They're looking to stab you in the back as much as they can. And I just felt really, really, really bad for her in that moment. I didn't like Jeff Probst's predatory behavior toward that kind of stuff. I mean, I hate when Probst really tries to dive into that. And Probst in that moment, he really, really, really believes that he is a therapist, a psychologist. So many times I think that's what he wants the game to be, is just him sitting down with everyone in a chair. He smokes a corncob pipe, says, tell me about your feelings, all the time. And it's a shame because I think he's more than that. And I think the game is more than that. But I did feel bad for Christina despite that stuff from Probst, and I thought it was inspiring to some degree. But as they say, the challenge must go on, and they get split into two different teams. And Christina's on a team with Joanne, Rizo, and Savannah versus Sophie squared, Sage, and Steven. And myself, I'm like, oh, this big obstacle course, and this, folks, I think Christina's going to be eating some food today because Rizo, Savannah, pretty good. Joanne holds his own. Unfortunately, there's a bunch of balance beams, and who knew that Rizo sucked at balance beams? I didn't realize that. but he sucks at balance beams. And not only he sucked at balance beams, Christina really sucked at balance beams. And this segment, despite how bad I felt for Christina and how it was supposed to be inspiring, when Christina got to the end, she flipped upside down, and I was like, whoa, this is going about as good as I expected it to. I didn't think she had great balance. And she flipped upside down, and she's fighting and struggling to get on, and she finally does. And Probst is like, unbelievable! Never seen that before! I was like, Probst, don't be crazy. Don't be a dick. Don't be crazy like this. Of course you've seen something like this before, and it is very believable that she could have flipped under, almost caused total disaster, and then somehow wormed her way back on the platform. That is very believable, actually. In fact, I think it's insulting that you would say that, because that means you would think normally Christina would have just fallen off like a dead rock. Rocks are never alive, I guess. I found it funny. I feel bad, but I found it funny in that moment. It's more Probst's commentary on the situation being funny more than the actual act itself. Anyway, despite all that, the Blue Tribe wins, which has, the Sophie, Sage, and Steven, which I just realized all 4 people with the name S are on that tribe. That's so crazy. They win some burgers, they win some hot dogs, and that's where some of the strategy continues there, because, Yellow Sophie sits in a hammock and Sage pops up and like, Sage is ready to enact this Savannah plan. She wants that hoe off this beach. That is something she will not let go of. And she says, the plan is to get rid of Savannah. Are you with it? And Yellow Sophie's like, yeah. But of course, later on, we find out that's not really the case. But the losers are back at beach. Rizo has himself a cry fest with his high-pitched voice. It gets funny when it's like that. Like, I'm all cut up and it's all hurting. I feel bad for him because, dude, I would be struggling out there. Just like Christina, just like Rizo. Savannah shed some tears this season. Sage has shed tears. Everybody has shed tears at one point or another. And everyone has their breaking point. That was Rizzo's. Jawan, he had a really awesome moment in this episode where he was like, dude, back at home, I make people feel good about themselves if I can. And that's what he did. He grabbed a spear. He said, I can go fishing. I try to get us food, because everyone gets perked up when they have food. He goes out, has a cool moment, kind of compares himself to like, man, watching the episode when I was younger, I would watch Ozzy go and fish and everyone get real hype about it. Brings back a fish like literally this big, like nothing. It's less than the size of like a baseball card. But he does give a little pep in the step of everyone around, which is pretty nice. It does make me wonder, though. I have no idea why the water in Fiji has no fish in it. Because if you're going to talk about Ozzy and back in the day when he used to fish, yeah, Rupert used to fish, Ozzy used to fish, Richard Hatch, they would come back with giant-ass fish from the ocean. Is Fiji just fished out? They always say there's always more fish in the sea. Apparently not in fucking Fiji, because I haven't seen a fish come from that water that is bigger than 3 inches the entire new era. Like, genuinely, where do the fish go in Fiji? I want to know. Like, are they going out of their way to kill the fish ahead of time so that there's no food? I don't understand what's going on in Fiji. Former castaways, can you please let me know why there are no fish in the water in Fiji? Do you know every episode there's the apply for Survivor Now, which, by the way, I have been applying. Thanks for the callback. Probst started doing like a medieval accent for this one. I don't know what to say about this man's antics anymore. Daddy's hat has fallen off. The Botox has gotten to his brain. I implore you, apply. There's nothing medieval about Survivor. There's nothing medieval about any of it. You're becoming a kook, dude. You're becoming a kook. Now, something that was fun was, at camp, they had the 3 boys on a bench. It was Jawan, Steven, and Rizo. You had like a fun segment where they were talking about making up songs, and they were trying to sing them. And I think Rizo even repeated like kind of a song from SpongeBob SquarePants, which was kind of interesting, kind of fun. And he does have that falsetto voice going on right now. I love little segments like that, like Heroes versus Villains. You have the Dragons, which I guess was a deleted scene, but Courtney, Coach, JT, doing a thing where they become a band and have a little fun with it. I love stuff like that on Survivor, and I wish we'd see a little more of that. I mean, I would love another like boys segment from Survivor 45 during the merge with Kenny Loggins boys. Let's get more of that going. Now, getting back to kind of more serious business, the after reward scramble was actually pretty interesting, because you had basically old Uli plus the Sophie squared combo talking about who's going to go home, and it's either Steven or Christina, obviously. And if one has an idol, we have to suss that out. Now, Jawan and Sage are in on this conversation because, as far as everyone knows, they're pretty faithful. Yellow Sophie is the one that's truly in power of this whole thing, because Yellow Sophie knows that Sage and Jawan want to get rid of Savannah. So you have Sage, Jawan, Steven, and Christina on one side, and then you have basically all of the old Uli plus Sophie over here. Yellow Sophie, Sophie Segretti, is sitting in the middle saying, which side do I want to roll with? Where do I think I can make the most impact? A perfect spot for Yellow Sophie. I love Yellow Sophie, by the way. Did they do something with the camera to make her eyes bluer and more perfect? Because goddamn, Sophie Segretti, You got it going on. It's like I'm looking into the soul of John Lennon or something, like a portal into all happiness. And speaking of Yellow Sophie supremacy, the immunity challenge comes around, and it's a big obstacle course with 1 or 2 stations that I actually quite liked, particularly the tube where you had to like go up it and it brings you back down. I like that a lot. It was fun visually to see them all kind of slam down on the ground and get knocked around. That was pretty cool. But it all ends with a puzzle like it always fucking does. Yellow Sophie locked in on this puzzle. She demolished this thing to win another immunity necklace. If they're not careful, Yellow Sophie is going to run the table on this. Right now, Savannah and Yellow Sophie are immunity necklace beasts, and I love that Yellow Sophie got this necklace. And the beauty of having the necklace also means at the same time, while she's sitting in the middle, she can also take more risks with the necklace and do kind of reckless things. Because there's always an element of overconfidence I think players get when they have that necklace on. And part of the confidence of wearing that necklace, she was talking to Sage after the challenge, and Sage more or less hinted at Christina having a hidden immunity idol. Yellow Sophie wasn't sure, but this more or less kind of confirmed it. And this is a part of Sage's 3-point plan for the night. Point 1, get rid of Savannah. Point 2, have Christina play her idol. Point 3, have Rizo play his idol. So her minorly leaking that to Yellow Sophie was part of kind of a brilliant plan on Sage's part. But the question is, will it actually come together?
No.
Yellow Sophie's pretty sure Christina has an idol, and then Blue Sophie, as we all know, but none of them out there know, she has the knowledge is power advantage, which means if she knows that someone has an advantage, she at Tribal Council can say, hey Jeffrey, I would like to take the advantage or idol from one person. In this scenario, now that Yellow Sophie knows that Christina has an idol, and she spills the beans to like Savannah, Blue Sophie, shouldn't Blue Sophie be at least entertaining the idea of taking Christina's idol? We find out in a deleted scene, they actually dug through Christina's bag and they found her idol in the bag. So they actually had it confirmed that Christina had an idol. And somehow Blue Sophie still did not use her knowledge is power advantage on it. That part I don't think is crazy. I think it actually makes a lot of sense for Blue Sophie to have not used knowledge is power at that point. Because then you're exposing yourself. You're making yourself a bigger threat than you have to be, while all these other threats are trying to be sorted out. You know, Yellow Sophie won another necklace. She's a threat. Christina had an idol. She's a threat. Joanne and Sage were exposed as flippers. They were threats. Savannah's been a threat. Rizo has an idol. Why would Blue Sophie make herself a bigger threat and compete with those other ones? She wouldn't. However, as viewers, what you needed to see, I think, was once Blue Sophie had it confirmed that Christina had an idol, we, the audience, should have seen Blue Sophie contemplate stealing that idol. We didn't get that. We got a throwaway scene where Blue Sophie said, oh, if Christina has an idol, I wish I could steal it. And that's about it. We really didn't get much more than that. And you know what that tells me? I hate to say this, y'all, but you know what that tells me? That tells me Blue Sophie does not win Survivor 49. Because if she did, we would have gotten much more of an edit in that situation. Just like when Alex was voted out. Those two started off in Kella, and we didn't really get a peep out of Blue Sophie when Alex was voted out of the game. Is it possible Blue Sophie wins the game? Yeah, totally, 100%. Every episode that passes by, my prediction of Savannah winning the game gets shakier because I think Blue Sophie is playing so well. But this scene in particular, the fact that they left it out, the idea that she could have been contemplating stealing Christina's idol, that's what tells me the edit is saying to us is that she is not going to win the game in this decision or non-decision, won't play a factor in the end. Instead, she'll be on the jury voting for someone that helped make this happen. And that makes me sad because I love Blue Sophie. The information Yellow Sophie got from Sage pretty much about the idol was pretty fascinating. I mean, Yellow Sophie spilling her guts to Savannah and Blue Sophie and Rizo saying, listen, I'm riding with you. They're going to vote for Savannah. Joanne and Sage are not interested in sticking with this group. Now, Savannah took that and turned it into one of my favorite parts of any episode in the last few seasons, where she starts interrogating a few different people. The first one being Christina. Christina's in the middle of saying, listen, Savannah, I'm a free agent. I'm willing to work with anybody. Da, 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 da. And before she can get the next thing out of her mouth, Savannah goes, who are you voting for? And Christina's like, oh, that's real aggressive. In so many words is what she was saying. That's real aggressive. And Savannah's like, well, it's just how I play. This is how I talk about gameplay. Who are you voting for? Yeah, that's not a good look, okay? If you say who are you voting for and the person is unwilling to say anything and they're flabbergasted, they have to walk away because you have imposed such aggression on them by saying that, that means they're voting for you and they're doing a terrible job of covering it up. And thank God Savannah totally understood that. I mean, Savannah only asked the question because she knew what the answer was. And you know what? This is one of those times where I go like, Christina's not the same level as someone like Savannah. They're a totally different level of game players. And I loved seeing this upfront conversation from Savannah. Again, this only happens though if you're in power and you know the answer already. There's been great examples of the past of these upfront conversations. Ellie and Gabler from Survivor 43 is one of my favorites. I just love watching these things unfold. And then Savannah follows that up by talking to Jawan on the beach and basically saying like, yeah, tonight's a big vote and, you know, it's going to be a big test of trust. No, don't you fail it. I mean, oh my God. And Jawan is just basically not coming clean or telling the truth about anything. In that moment, I'm like, dude, I understand why everyone wants Savannah gone now, because when you hear her talk like that, you're just like, holy shit, this lady is a shark over and over and over again. Because Sage, I think, has a little bit of a personal vendetta to some degree, but she also understands that Savannah is a very good player. Because despite all these episodes with Rizzo's idol, everyone is still targeting Savannah. And I don't think anymore it's because of Rizzo's idol. I think it's because they know Savannah can't be stopped. She is a fembot who has come back from the past and ready to ruin everyone's future in the game if you don't get rid of her. And this segment more or less just reconfirmed that she is a badass who I'm very much still backing to win Survivor 49. If she doesn't win, injustice. Because she further impressed me at the end of all that when she told Blue Sophie, you know what, how about instead of choosing between Christina and Steven and guessing which one's going to have the idol, why don't we just get rid of one of the flippers in Sage or Jawan? Brilliant idea. Because they go to tribal council, that's exactly what happens. Now, as a full recap of it, the question as a viewer, like, oh, will Christina play her idol? Will Blue Sophie take it? Blue Sophie did not take it. Christina stands up, plays her idol, and says this could be a mistake, and she plays it for Steven, which I was impressed by because I didn't think Christina would even play it for anyone other than herself. I thought she would play it in the most basic way possible. However, she played it very wrong, of course. Then you have Rizzo stand up and say, Jeffrey, I'd like to talk to the class. And he does this whole spiel and plays the idol in his hand for Savannah. And then Jeff confirms that this was not a real idol. And everyone goes, whoa! It was all Rizzo just putting on a giant show. And this was the moment, by the way, that I'm confident Jeff Probst fell in totally platonic love with Rizzo. There's a look in this man's eyes when Rizzo said, I want to address the class. Probst, like, you might as well put hearts over his eyes because he is in stupid, crazy love with this man in this moment. But everyone's begging Rizzo, okay, you should play the real idol now because he put up a fake one just for fun. But Rizzo said, I'm good. And they decided to go through the vote with no idol being played by Rizzo. And during the vote, a bunch of Savannahs popped up. I think by the third Savannah turned to Jawan the second time and said, Jawan, did you vote for me? And Jawan does a nice little nod. Jawan starts getting more and more and more. He's got 4 or 5 Jawans in his direction. And Savannah's just looking at him like, I loved it. There's people who are not fans of Savannah and Rizzo probably were not stoked in that moment. But how can you not? Like, Rizzo and Savannah helped snake out Jawan and Sage's treacherous ass plan. If you left this episode being mad at Savannah or Rizzo for putting it in Jawan's face, then you're wrong. Like, you're so wrong. I mean, obviously, like, they didn't do anything wrong. I mean, Sage and Jawan have flipped on everybody at this point. If there's like villains of the season strategically, it's them. Like, Savannah, you could be upset, but she hasn't done anything. She's stuck with the people she's stuck with. Who's she betrayed? And if she laughs in their face, I don't really care all that much. I mean, they earned it. And Jawan took it like a G, man. He was awesome in that exchange. He wanted to find out who did it, and he said, you know what? Props to y'all for doing this. I love Jawan. Jawan's great. Now, one thing about Jawan being voted out, Rizzo really hurt his stock to win the game for myself. Because, you know, Rizzo's done a lot of things that work really well. You know, he's had really good reads on the players around him. He's kept his idol for 4 tribal councils. That's really impressive. But Rizzo's biggest problem that he cannot help himself on, and maybe it's Jeff Probst's fault for saying, everyone play to be on season 50 because this season, whatever, but you want to be on 50. Rizzo has a habit of showmanship, which all the great players have. I admit it. They really do. Being a showman is really important to get back on Survivor. Now, Rizzo, right here in this moment, he pops up and says, Jawan, I couldn't let you flip on me again. You flipped on me once before, so you had to go. Mind you, this wasn't Rizzo's plan. This was the whole group's plan. So him standing up so aggressively in front of the jury saying, everyone, look over here. I did it. I got this chump out. Give me credit. And you know what? He's going to get that goddamn credit. in the form of being voted out of this game, because he has a huge target on his back now that says, do not let me get to the end. And you know what? Everyone's going to know it too. Someone like Savannah probably would cut him if it comes down to it. Blue Sophie, you just gave Blue Sophie all of the ammo she needs to steal your goddamn idol, Rizo. And will she get blame? Yeah, maybe a little bit. But the jury will say, that was a good idea because if he got to the end, I would vote for him. So Rizo is really doing a great job of keeping me entertained. I think he's fun. I think he's great. But he's doing a poor job of winning Survivor 49. Now, will he come back for a future season? I think he's done quite a bit to make sure that happens. But will he win Survivor 49? No, I think he is showmanshipping his way out of this game. But anyway, overall, awesome episode. I thought it was really fun. Thank God the post-merge is becoming more and more fun. Loving it. It's really great. I want to see more from Yellow Sophie. I want to see Blue Sophie start to kick out now at this point, because early in the game, she was a star. Right now, she's a side piece to like a Savannah and a Rizo, even a Yellow Sophie. She's the secondary Sophie now at this point. She needs to change that shit, use the knowledge's power, and end up taking control of the game for herself. Maybe Sage needs to go before that can happen, but Sage could be a number. Because if she wants to go against someone like Rizo, Sage will be down for it. So I hope, for the sake of the bigger overall game and changing things up, I hope Blue Sophie takes a shot at Rizo. But I love what Rizzo's doing. I love what Savannah's doing. I think this season is going really, really well. And by the way, this reaction is the exact reason why Christina can't win the game. Well, at least it's not one of us. No, you cannot do that with people like Rizo and Savannah and Yellow Sophie and Blue Sophie around in this game. You need to do more than that. You need to have the killer gene. And I'm afraid there's some folks left that still don't have that killer gene. Even Sage takes risks to make it happen. But that's going to do it for the episode. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to hit the subscribe button to the Survivor Super Fun Time Show. It's going to be awesome to chat with you more about it as we get closer to the end of the season. Otherwise, that's going to do it. Hope you have an amazing day. Take care. Goodbye.